Ladies and gentlemen, there's something we don't talk about enough. The quiet weight you carry, the silent battles you fight when no one's watching. The pain behind your smile, the war behind your calm behavior. You see, not everyone is meant to understand your pain, and not everyone deserves to hear it. Some people won't care. Some will act like they do, just long enough to feed their curiosity. And worse still, some will turn your struggles into entertainment. It's a bitter truth, but it's reality. You share your heart hoping someone will hold it gently, but instead they hold it up to the light for everyone to see, to judge, to whisper about, to laugh behind your back. You let them into a part of your life they haven't earned the right to witness, and you wonder why you feel exposed, betrayed, broken. It's not about bottling it up. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about discernment, about knowing that not everyone has the wisdom, the compassion, the capacity to carry even a corner of your load. Some smile to your face and secretly hope to see you stumble. To them, your pain is a show. Your setbacks are their punchlines. They're not rooting for your healing. They're waiting for your collapse. And so you must understand this. Struggles are weights meant to be lifted by you, because no one else, no matter how close, can ever truly understand the gravity of your pain, the fire of your dreams, the weight of your battles. This is your journey, and telling everyone about the obstacles on your path won't make them any easier, won't lighten the load, won't bring you peace. But you know what will? Silence. There's power in silence. There's strength in moving quietly, in waking up every morning, grinding in the dark while the world is asleep, in choosing to grow, to struggle, to rise without the applause. Not everyone needs to know. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your becoming. When life throws its worst at you, hold it close. Don't run from it. Don't broadcast it. Embrace it. Study it. Learn from it. Let the struggle shape you in silence. Let it mold you in the dark, like pressure on coal turning it into diamond. Like roots digging deeper in drought, silence grows strength where noise cannot. Only share your journey with those who've earned it. The rare ones who uplift without judgment, who listen without comparison, who support without expectation. Until you find them, let your progress speak. Let your resilience echo louder than your words. Let your results silence every doubt. Let your growth be the loudest thing about you. Because when you keep going, when you succeed in the shadows, when you rise above quietly without asking for sympathy or validation, people will wonder, how did they do it? And the only answer they'll ever need is your success. Let that be the echo of your silence. Let that be the voice for every sleepless night, every tear shed in solitude, every battle you fought when no one showed up. The illusion of validation. Take a moment. Ask yourself this. What do you gain from sharing your pain with the wrong people? Be honest. Are you doing it for healing or for validation? Because validation is a short-term fix. It won't pull you out of bed at 5 a.m. It won't carry you through the storm. It won't put in the work when the motivation dies. And most importantly, it won't make you stronger. Only you can do that. The less you seek approval, the more unstoppable you become. Because when you stop asking people to understand, you start to understand yourself. You start facing your problems head on. You stop waiting for permission to be strong. And you become strong. That's what silence teaches you. To rely on your own voice in the void. To trust the echo of your own strength. To believe that you are enough. Even when no one claps, even when no one sees, even when no one cares. And when you find that strength within, it can't be shaken. It can't be stolen. It becomes your foundation. It becomes your fire. There is a sacred space, a place the world doesn't see, a space where battles are fought without witnesses, where dreams are nurtured without applause, where strength is built in silence, one breath, one step, one choice at a time. It's the space of solitude, not loneliness, but solitude. Because in solitude, you're not alone. You're with your thoughts, your truth, your mission, your future. And while the world chases likes, shares, and attention, you're in the quiet, sharpening your sword, building your spirit, forging your legacy. Real growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in those quiet, private moments. When you're journaling your pain instead of venting it, when you're reflecting instead of reacting, when you're sitting in the stillness, not waiting for noise, but learning to find power in the pause. Because that's where champions are made. Not in front of a crowd, but in front of the mirror. Not in grand announcements, but in small, consistent actions. Not in the comfort of external approval, but in the fire of personal conviction. You ever notice something? The ones who seem the calmest, the most grounded, the most unshakable, they're not loud, they're not boastful. They don't need to explain their moves. They don't seek pity, praise, or permission. Why? Because they've been through the fire. And they didn't announce it. They endured the breaking, the rebuilding, the long nights, the silent mornings. They've cried quietly, fallen privately, gotten back up without anyone knowing they were ever down. And now, they carry a strength the world can't define, a quiet authority, an invisible armor. That's what silence does. It forces you to develop what noise can't give you. Discipline. The kind of discipline that wakes you before the alarm, that keeps you moving when motivation disappears, that shows up day after day, even when no one's clapping. You don't need to announce your progress. You don't need to explain your pain. You just need to keep working, keep healing, keep building, keep rising. Let your scars be your teachers. Let your setbacks become setups. Let your silence become strength. Because while others waste time seeking validation, you'll be gaining ground. In the dark, in the quiet, where legacies are born. The most important work you'll ever do is the work you do when no one is watching, when you're not being recorded, when there's no one to impress, no one to cheer you on, no one to witness the grind. That's when your true self is revealed. What do you do in those moments? Do you stay consistent? Do you stay focused? Do you stay honest? Because that's where greatness lives. In the choices no one sees, in the habits you build in private, in the inner battles you conquer that never make it to social media. See, the loud ones often fade, but the quiet ones, they rise slowly, surely, unshakably. And when they show up, they don't need to say a word. Their presence speaks, their results speak, their resilience speaks. You are not weak for staying silent. You are not cold for keeping your struggles to yourself. You are not distant for protecting your peace. You are wise, you are focused, you are powerful. Because while they try to dim your fire with doubt, you're stoking your own flame in silence. You're becoming a wildfire of purpose, lit by every setback, fueled by every rejection, ignited by every "you can't." And by the time they notice the blaze, it'll be too late to stop it. You'll be too far gone, too high to reach, too strong to shake, because you didn't waste time convincing them. You spent time becoming someone who no longer seeks validation, becoming someone who walks in confidence, not for show, but because they've earned it, because they've faced the darkness and found the light within. You don't need to announce your healing. Let the peace on your face speak for it. You don't need to broadcast your comeback. Let the power in your steps speak louder than any post ever could. Now, the path ahead of you is long. The road is narrow. The journey will test you again and again. But let me tell you something. Every step you take in silence will echo forever. Every silent victory, every quiet morning of discipline, every unnoticed sacrifice will eventually speak in volumes no words can match. You're not falling behind, you're building momentum, you're not forgotten, you're becoming undeniable. You're not weak for doing it alone, you're becoming unstoppable because you did. People will see your smile and think you're fine. They'll hear your laugh and assume life is easy for you. They'll watch you succeed and believe it all came naturally, but they don't know. They don't know about the nights you cried yourself to sleep. They don't know the battles you fought inside your own mind just to get out of bed. They don't know the days you carried the weight of the world on your shoulders and still showed up anyway. They see the highlight reel. but you've lived the whole movie. Only you know what it took to get here. Only you know the voices you had to silence inside your own head. The doubts, the fears, the failures, the heartbreak, the loneliness. And still, you rise. That's power. The kind of power that doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't boast. It builds. It doesn't need validation. It is its own validation. You see, real strength isn't loud. It's silent and consistent. It's quiet and unwavering. It's invisible to most, but unshakable to the one who owns it. You don't have to be the loudest in the room to be the strongest. The tallest tree doesn't shout to reach the sky. It just grows silently, patiently, daily. And when the storm comes, it's the tree with the deepest roots, the ones planted in solitude, in darkness, that will stand tall. So don't fear the quiet. That's where depth is born. The greatest legacies in history weren't built by those who chased attention. They were built by those who chased purpose, by those who stayed faithful to the mission, even when no one clapped, even when no one noticed. Let others post about it. You be about it. Let others talk. You walk. Let others chase the crowd. You chase your calling. Because when you're locked in, when you're committed to something greater than yourself, you don't need an audience. You just need why. It's in the silence that you shift. That's where it happens. Not in the noise of approval, not in the chaos of opinions, but in the stillness. That moment when you finally stop asking, why me? And start declaring, try me. That's the turning point. When you stop sharing every hardship and start harvesting every hardship, turning pain into purpose, turning wounds into wisdom. You stop looking for someone to save you and become your own savior. You stop telling people how hard it is and start showing them how unstoppable you are. That shift doesn't need a mic. It doesn't need an audience. It just needs a decision. And when you make that decision, that you're done explaining, done complaining, done seeking pity, that's when everything changes. Let's talk about grit. Grit isn't loud. Grit is the decision to show up even when everything inside you screams to quit. It's continuing when the support fades, when the praise disappears, when it's just you, your willpower, and the vision no one else can see. Grit is quiet, but it's unbreakable. It's doing reps in the gym when no one's watching. It's working overtime while others party. It's sacrificing now to reap later. It's staying late when you're tired, waking up early when you want to sleep, and never giving less than 100%. Not because someone's watching, but because you're watching. And if you can respect yourself in the silence, you won't need the noise. Because real champions don't wait to be seen. They work as if the world's already watching. They push like the victory's already theirs. And in time, they win like they always knew they would. You become who you are in the dark. You are not forged in front of a crowd. You are forged in the dark, in the early mornings, in the lonely nights, in the silence between the effort and the reward. That's when you become who you are. Because every time you choose discipline over comfort, silence over sympathy, action over explanation, you are shaping the person you were meant to be. You are no longer defined by your pain. You are defined by how you carry it, how you rise from it, how you use it. And once you've been broken and rebuilt in the dark, there's nothing anyone can take from you, because you've already found the one thing they can't touch: your self-respect, your integrity, your grit, your identity. You've stopped needing others to believe in you because you've learned to believe in yourself. And once you have that, you are dangerous in the best way. Let your life be the response. The world is full of talkers, of people who explain, defend, justify, overshare. But your response to life doesn't need to be verbal. Let your results speak. Let your peace speak. Let your growth speak. Let your healing do the talking. Let your success answer every insult. Let your endurance silence every critic. You don't owe the world a story. You owe yourself a future. And you're building it. Brick by silent brick. Day by invisible day. And when the day comes, and it will, when the light finally hits what you built in the shadows, they'll say, "I had no idea you were going through all that." And you'll smile. Not out of bitterness, not to prove a point, but because you finally understand. Silence wasn't weakness. It was power. They don't deserve the blueprint to your battles. When you tell the wrong people your problems, you're handing them the blueprint to break you. You're giving away the map to your most vulnerable places, to someone who hasn't earned it, to someone who wouldn't protect it. And here's the thing. Some people don't just fail to understand you. They don't want to understand you. They're not listening to comfort you. They're listening to compare, to compete, to collect ammunition. So what are you doing handing them the keys to your emotional vault? Understand this. Your pain is sacred. It's not for public consumption. It's not for people who haven't proven their loyalty, their empathy, their consistency. You can't be transparent with people who are opaque. You can't be vulnerable with people who vanish when the storm hits. Your story is valuable. Treat it like it is. You owe no one an explanation for your pain. There's no requirement in life that says you have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your sadness. You don't have to report your setbacks. You don't have to prove your struggle to anyone, because most won't understand. Not because they're evil, but because they haven't walked your path. And for those who do judge you, they don't deserve to know. They don't deserve access to your inner world, to your sacred process of healing. Let them wonder, let them assume, let them create their own stories. Because what matters isn't what they say, it's who you're becoming behind the scenes. That's the real victory. That's the real transformation. Emotional control is power. When you stop explaining your pain to everyone, you start reclaiming control. You're no longer reactive, you're intentional, deliberate, focused. You don't panic share, you don't overshare, you observe, you process, you act. That's emotional maturity. That's the kind of strength that people feel even when you say nothing. Because now you're not led by your emotions, you're leading them. And when you lead your emotions, you stop letting others manipulate your narrative. They don't get to label your depression as laziness. They don't get to call your anxiety weakness. They don't get to minimize your trauma or mock your healing process, because you didn't give them a front row seat to it. You kept it sacred. You kept it powerful. You kept it yours. Here's a hard truth. When you constantly vent to the wrong people, you cheapen your pain. You dilute its depth. You invite misunderstanding where there should be introspection. Not every emotion needs an audience. Not every breakdown needs to be narrated. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to keep it between you, your journal, and your God. Because once you say it out loud to the wrong ears, you can't take it back. They'll remember, they'll use it, they'll twist it. And what was once a sacred wound becomes a source of gossip, judgment, or pity. Protect yourself from that. Validation is a trap. Most people aren't sharing their struggles for healing. They're sharing for validation. But here's the catch. Validation feels good until it doesn't come. Then what? You spiral. You question yourself. You feel exposed, foolish, ashamed, because the silence from others becomes louder than your own self-worth. You depended on their response to justify your pain. Don't do that. Don't outsource your healing to people who can barely manage their own. Instead of sharing your struggle for sympathy, work through it in silence. Earn your own respect. Let the outcome be your validation. Let your breakthrough say, I was in the fire and I made it out. Growth is private work. You want to grow? Then learn to sit with yourself. Not scroll, not call, not post. Sit. Feel what you feel. Write it out. Pray through it. Breathe through it. That's the real work. Not venting on every phone call. Not putting cryptic quotes on your Instagram story. Not telling people you're not okay just to feel seen. You don't need to be seen. You need to be centered. You need to be grounded. You need to be focused on the solution, not the sympathy. That only happens when you get quiet, when you go inward, when you shut out the noise and do the work in private. Because growth doesn't ask for attention, it demands discipline. Give yourself the closure you seek from others. So many people stay stuck because they're waiting for closure. Waiting for someone to apologize, waiting for someone to understand, waiting for someone to finally say, I get it. Stop waiting. You don't need them to get it. You don't need their closure. You need your clarity. And clarity comes in solitude. It comes in walking away without announcing it, healing without revenge, forgiving without discussion, releasing without validation. Give yourself what you keep begging others for. You don't need to post it. You don't need to prove it. You just need to live it. And when you do, you'll see that peace doesn't come from being heard. It comes from being healed. Choosing silence isn't weakness. It's authority. You're not running from your problems. You're confronting them in the most powerful way, privately, directly, maturely. You're not avoiding, you're absorbing, processing, transforming. And no one needs to see the mess to respect the masterpiece. No one needs to witness the pain to believe in your power. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to become everything you know you can be. In silence, in focus, in purpose. Let's get something straight. Not everyone deserves access to your story. Not everyone has the emotional intelligence, the life experience, or the genuine care to hold space for your truth. But when you open up to just anyone, you're letting them enter sacred space without a key. You're offering up your wounds to people who haven't earned your trust, people who may not even have the capacity to care. You might think you're being real. You might think it's vulnerability. But the truth? Unfiltered vulnerability with the wrong people isn't brave, it's dangerous. Because now they have your truth and they might not protect it. Now they know your pressure points and some won't hesitate to press them when it suits their agenda. So you've got to ask yourself, why am I sharing this? And with whom? Because if they haven't walked through the fire with you, they don't deserve to sit at your healing table. Your spirit is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your healing is sacred. And you've got to protect it like it's your life. Because it is. Every time you speak your problems into the wrong ears, you invite confusion into your spirit. You give people the power to influence your perspective, to distort your clarity, to inject their insecurities into your process. You're fighting for inner peace. So why are you letting outside noise mess with it? Discretion is power, privacy is protection, silence is sacred. Guard your goals, guard your mind, guard your process like it's a treasure, because it is. You're not being mysterious, you're being wise. Let them misinterpret your silence, let them wonder, let them speculate, because while they talk, you build. You know what's powerful? Not explaining yourself, not because you're hiding, but because you're free. You're free from the burden of constantly translating your soul for people who only speak surface. You don't owe an explanation for your struggle. You don't have to relive the pain for someone's curiosity. You don't need to share your sadness just to be understood. Sometimes silence is self-respect. Sometimes not sharing is how you stay sane, because no matter how much you explain, they'll still only hear you through the lens of their own experience. So stop bleeding on people who can't bandage you. Stop telling your story to people who won't honor it. Let your life speak. Let your resilience be the proof. Let your glow be the explanation. Let your peace be the story. Oversharing doesn't just expose you emotionally, it costs you mentally. You think you're venting for relief, but often you're just reliving the pain. Every time you tell the story, you reinforce the wound. You give it more weight. You feed it attention it doesn't deserve. Instead of healing, you're rehearsing. Instead of processing, you're performing. Instead of moving forward, you're looping. Not every emotion needs to be verbalized. Some feelings are meant to be felt and then released. Feel it, write it, pray through it, walk it off, transmute it into progress. But don't keep broadcasting what you're trying to bury. Don't keep announcing what you're meant to rise above, because the more you talk about it, the more space it takes in your spirit. And healing needs space. There is something divine about silence. It's not cold. It's not passive. It's not weak. It's sacred. It's strategic. It's strong. When you move in silence, you confuse those who want to control you. You disarm those who try to define you. You protect the integrity of your process. And when you heal in silence, you don't waste time explaining. You invest time transforming. You don't beg for understanding. You build self-trust. You don't seek a cheer squad. You become your own coach, your own counselor, your own motivator. And when you win in silence, That's a different kind of victory. Because there's no ego, no "I told you so." Just peace, just presence, just purpose. You don't need to validate your pain through other people. You don't need permission to feel what you feel. You don't need a witness to believe your experience is real. And you definitely don't need an audience to suffer. Pain is not a performance. Healing is not a show. It's personal. It's intimate. It's holy. And when you stop needing others to co-sign your experience, you begin to own it. You stop asking, "Can you believe this happened to me?" And you start saying, "Look what I've built from what tried to break me." You stop seeking sympathy and you start seeking strategy. You stop venting and you start evolving. That's when pain stops being a prison and becomes a platform. There's something powerful about being the one they can't figure out. Not because you're hiding, but because you've elevated. Because you've realized that sharing everything isn't strength, it's exposure. Mystery is protection, and protection is power. Let them wonder what you've been through. Let them guess how you got here. Let them speculate about your comeback. Because the people who tried to bury you will never understand how you grew in the dark. They'll never understand how silence became your armor, how solitude became your sanctuary, how self-trust became your fuel. So let your mystery intimidate. Let your silence command respect. Let your peace cause confusion. And most of all, let your success be the only story you ever need to tell. In a world that feeds on overexposure, privacy becomes power. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes strength. And in a world where people share everything to feel seen, your refusal to do so makes you stand out. Protect your light. Your process is not a public project. Your purpose is not a community vote. Your pain is not for entertainment. Your comeback is not for commentary. It's yours, your story, your pain, your healing, your mission. And not everyone needs to know. Because the more you protect your process, the more powerful the outcome. You don't need to explain why you went quiet. You don't need to justify why you pulled away. You don't need to defend your silence. Let them misinterpret it. Let them assume. Because your power is not in their understanding. It's in your becoming. You don't owe anyone your pain story. You don't owe anyone your scars. You don't owe anyone your struggle. You only owe yourself this: to rise, to heal, to thrive, to build the life your pain tried to steal from you. And you will, quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. Let them wonder. Let your life be the answer. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. You don't owe anyone a breakdown. You don't owe them the unfiltered truth. You don't owe them an emotional play-by-play of your worst days. In fact, the moment you stop narrating your pain to people who haven't earned the right to hear it, that's the moment you begin to reclaim your power. See? It's easy to share, easy to vent, easy to post a vague message looking for sympathy. But what takes real strength? Sitting with the weight, holding it, carrying it without complaint, enduring without broadcasting. That's where you sharpen your edge. That's where you gain your grit. Because every time you stay silent, you choose control. You choose intention. You choose you. Silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Because once you've been betrayed by a few open ears, once you've had your heart turned into gossip, once you've seen people laugh behind your back while pretending to care, you stop offering up your pain so freely. You realize not everyone with a hand on your shoulder is a friend. Not everyone asking, "How are you?" wants an honest answer. Some just want something to talk about when you walk away. So you go inward. You build a life where your peace is louder than your explanations, where your progress says what your voice no longer needs to, where your healing becomes so sacred, so personal, you protect it like treasure. And make no mistake, your silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is. You're learning to cope without complaining. You're learning to rise without announcements. You're building a life that doesn't require permission or pity. Let them assume you've got it easy. They weren't there for the sleepless nights. They didn't see the panic attacks. They didn't watch you rebuild yourself from scraps of shattered hope. And that's fine. They don't need to know what you went through, because what matters most isn't what they understand. It's that you survived. And now, you're not explaining your journey. You're walking it. No updates, no justifications, just quiet, unstoppable growth. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's the presence of power. It's the line between chaos and clarity, between reacting and responding, between self-exposure and self-mastery. When you hold back from telling your problems to the wrong people, you are practicing the purest form of self-respect. Not everyone has the maturity to hold space for you. Not everyone deserves to hear your truths. And when you realize that, you stop leaking your life into unworthy hands. You stop turning your struggle into content. You stop explaining your every emotional storm to people who bring umbrellas but never shelter. You stop hoping someone will get it, because you finally do. You've been through enough to know that telling someone your pain doesn't guarantee empathy. It doesn't promise understanding. And it sure doesn't promise loyalty. Some will sympathize with you just long enough to feel superior. Others will act like they care while secretly loving that you're struggling. And the most dangerous ones, they'll remember your weakest moments and replay them in conversations that were never meant for your ears. So you learn, you grow, you pull back. Not because you're cold, not because you don't feel, but because you finally know. You know your heart is not a journal for others to skim. You know your wounds are not invitations for judgment. You know your healing doesn't require a round of applause. You start talking less and moving more. You start venting less and building more. You stop narrating and start navigating, because now you've stepped into a new kind of strength, quiet strength. You begin to master restraint. You begin to recognize that your story isn't ready to be shared. Not because you're hiding, but because you're still becoming. And once you've lived through the betrayal of telling the wrong people too much, you realize the cost of oversharing is higher than the momentary relief it brings. Oversharing is emotional debt. It feels good in the moment, but leaves you empty later. True healing? It happens in the quiet, in the unshared, in the sacred space between you and your creator, or your journal, or your quiet room at 2 a.m. That's where the real work happens. No eyes, no ears, no applause, just you. Facing your reality, holding yourself accountable, putting one foot in front of the other. There's a certain pride that grows when you get through something and no one even knew you were going through it. Not because you were silenced, but because you were focused. Focused on healing, focused on progress, focused on becoming who you're meant to be. Let the world assume what it wants. You have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, nothing to explain. Your only job now? Keep going. Keep working on yourself in the dark until the light starts coming from you. There's something unshakable about someone who has walked through the fire and said nothing. Someone who has cried silently, bled quietly, healed privately, and emerged stronger, calmer, clearer. Because when you stop telling people your problems, you stop giving them a script to read your life. You stop giving them access to the parts of you they were never qualified to understand. And in that silence, you find something rare: self-trust. You stop asking, "Do you think I'll make it?" and start declaring, "I'm making it." You stop thinking, "If they understood, I'd feel better," and realize, "I feel better because I understand myself." When you let silence be your companion, you hear things you never could in the noise: your intuition, your resilience, your truth. And once you hear your truth, you can't unknow it. You realize your healing is not a public event. It's not something to live stream. It's not content. It's your soul's reconstruction project, and it deserves privacy. Let others keep oversharing. Let them confuse pity with power. Let them trade empathy for attention. But you've graduated from that. Now you let your peace speak louder than your pain. You let your actions shout louder than your explanations. You let your life become the loudest thing about you. Because here's the truth. People may not notice your silence now, but they'll feel your transformation later. They'll wonder, where have you been? What happened to you? How did you get here? And you'll simply smile, because they weren't there for the fight. They weren't there for the quiet mornings you got up anyway. They didn't see the internal battles you won when the world thought you were resting. So no, you don't owe them your story. You don't owe them your breakdowns. You don't owe them anything but distance. Let your boundaries protect your rebirth. Let your discipline protect your peace. Let your silence protect your purpose, because the strongest ones, they don't just rise, they rise without noise. No declarations, no pity parties, no drama, just momentum, just purpose, just power. And when the world finally catches up, when they see the level you've built in the dark, they'll say, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" And the answer will be simple: because I didn't need to. I just needed to become. So hold your head high, not because they understand, but because you finally do. Walk in quiet confidence, not to be seen, but because you no longer need to be. Let them wonder where you went and how you rose, because the truth is, your silence wasn't absence. It was transformation. And now that you've become who you were always meant to be, you don't need to explain the pain that shaped you. You are no longer here to be understood. You are here to be undeniable.